It says it's being live streamed.
Okay, great. We are live.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. I did. I got in town yesterday, but I'm happy to be here at 9 a.m. this morning. I guess we need to call the roll. Well, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving.
Justice Emily Miskell,
Here.
Judge J.R. Woolley,
Here.
Mr. Jay Cohen.
Present.
All right, we have a committee quorum. And the first item for your consideration today is an approval of our last Grants and Reporting Committee meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. We do have one, so as you know, our standard improvement grant cycle, we usually act on most requests in June for the upcoming fiscal year. We did get one request from Tom Green County for a small grant for an indigent defense coordinator position. And so that's the first item that I'd like to present for your consideration on page 10 of your materials. As you know, the indigent defense coordinator position is something that we really encourage all counties to put in place. This is that position that really quarterbacks the compliance with the Fair Defense Act requirements and timelines regarding requests for counsel, getting those ruled upon, and making appointments in a timely manner. So we definitely want to recommend this. The grant that would be approved at this point would be to carry the county through the balance of fiscal year 2026, assuming they'll start in January. And so we do have a recommendation to make an award to Tom Green County of a 2026 multi-year improvement grant of $44,019 for an indigent defense coordinator.
I just had a brief question of, do we know why this one's sort of out of cycle with the normal course of requests?
I think it came up locally after the timeline for our regular RFA. The way that we structure the timelines that we share with counties is we call the May deadline, which is the main deadline, the priority deadline. And the RFA does say if funds remain available, as they do, plenty of funds available, that counties may apply after that deadline if funds remain available.
So like reading between the lines, was this something their commissioners court approved for their October 1st starting of their fiscal year, or just?
I believe they did not adopt the resolution for this grant until after October. So I believe they're planning to start in January.
Okay.
I'd be willing to bet, though, Emily, that it was in their budget hearings, and then something kicked off, and then they had this idea that was post our deadline, but didn't start talking about it, as most commissioners' courts don't, until it's their budget cycle.
I believe also we also did recently had some policy monitoring in Tom Green where there were some issues that we brought to their attention regarding appointments not being timely, and there were some paperwork issues, I believe, that an IDC will help solve.
Okay, I had no issues with the request. I was just curious about why it was coming in separately. So I will move to approve the Tom Green County Improvement Grant shown on the screen.
I'll second the motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. The next set of requests is really the thing we'll probably end up spending most of our time on today. So as you'll recall, the legislature, when they adopted our budget for this biennium, allowed us to carry forward $10 million of unused Operation Lone Star defense appropriation funds to this biennium. And they put this language on your screen on as a budget rider that told us the parameters for spending that $10 million. So basically, it has to be temporary or one-time assistance for existing rural defender programs to assist counties operating those types of programs. We did act on a number of these requests at our last meeting in August. We issued a special request for applications. Most of our grants, as you know, are to invest in permanent structural changes that improve indigent defense. Because this was explicitly temporary or one time, we issued a separate request for funds. requests for applications rather. And so to the bulleted out here are the suggested items, not an exhaustive list of things that we recommended for consideration when counties are putting together applications for these funds. So we invited them to request a temporary reduction to their matching funds for those counties that are in sustainability grants. Typically, the participating counties contribute 1/3, and we handle 2/3. So they could request a temporary reduction in that. We did give, kind of as the standard package, a 20% reduction to most of the counties that asked. The big thing that we focused on was recruiting assistance of all kinds. So we talked about signing bonuses, relocation expenses to help fill the positions that remain open. Indigent defense internships or fellowships, we're really struggling to build the pipeline of new attorneys coming into public defense work. So we encouraged those kinds of requests, equipment requests, some technology needs, training, and then we do want to hold on to some funds because we're hoping to see a pilot project for family protection representation program that we could use some of these funds for. And Crystal Left-Pignon has been working with several jurisdictions. We're anticipating getting a request in that space in March. So at our last meeting, the board awarded just under 3.5 million of these funds to these counties, and applications are being accepted on a rolling basis. So that's just a quick review of where we are. We've awarded about 3.5 million. We do want to hold back some substantial funds, several $1 million, because we'd like to be able to provide that discount for the sustainability grant programs for both FY26 and FY27. And so several $1 million is being recommended to be on hold for that, as well as those funds for the family protection representation pilot that we're actively working to develop. So Dorian, I think you can go on to the next page. So as I mentioned in my email with the materials, a lot of the requests that we received this time are fairly straightforward. They're in line with other things that we've done for other counties, but we did receive some requests that were a little bit unusual for us, and so we hope to touch on those. What you're seeing on the screen is the first of 3 pages that really kind of itemize each particular request that the various counties put forward. We do have the full applications, and we can dive into some of the details because I'm sure you can recognize there's a lot of material there to sort through. So we've tried to distill it down, but if we want to drill down on anything, we have the materials in the meeting book to do so. So if there are no questions, I'll go ahead and jump in and just start working through these. First, we have Tom Green County, unrelated to what you just took action on. The Concho Valley and Big Country Regional Public Defender Program covers 11 counties. They have requested the purchase of 2 vehicles and associated costs, including insurance and gas maintenance, things like that. And then they've also requested to replace their old laptops and related tech equipment. I do have a note here that on the vehicles purchase, so we did invite equipment purchase as a possibility. I have requested a cost-benefit analysis. They did provide a narrative explanation about, which describes how clearly having a couple of vehicles, they have one office in Abilene, one office in San Angelo, and having a vehicle available in each office will greatly reduce the amount of mileage reimbursement that the staff are filing for their travel and their personal vehicles. So I have little doubt that this is going to make economic sense. They didn't quite give me the underlying math to show it, and so that's why we have a blank there waiting cost benefit. One option I'll float is that if the committee wanted to recommend it pending the receipt of a cost benefit analysis, staff team's acceptable, that's one way we could go here. And then replacing the old laptops, basically they have 46 staff across the 2 programs for each of the offices, and then they requested a few spares for interns and new employees and just when things go wrong. So any questions or discussion about Tom Green?
We approved vehicles for a different grant last time. Is this like a similar type of request to that previous one?
Yes, so we did approve a request from the Texas Tech, which operates the Caprock Regional Defender Program, and we did authorize the purchase of a vehicle for them. We have done this in the past. Clearly, when you're dealing with these big regional programs that cover huge swaths of the state, there is a lot of windshield time. And so, as I said, I'm confident that eventually there's a break-even point beyond which there's going to be savings for us and for the program.
And just for purposes of this meeting, were you wanting us to vote on each one as we go through or discuss all of them, or what was the?
So my suggestion would be, since there's, as you see, there's several pages and everything's itemized, my suggestion is that if we should probably have a motion for each county request. And if you can just verbally indicate the items that you're recommending to award, we will review the recording in our notes and incorporate that into a motion for the full board.
So I would move to approve both requests pending the receipt of the documentation that you've requested, but I'll open it up to discussion from the other committee members.
I can say personally, because I switched over to a county vehicle and it is a cost savings to my county just in that. And I travel quite a bit, probably nowhere near as much as they would use those two vehicles. And I think there's more than just the cost benefit of the per mile thing. You look at salaries later on with that they want more money because they got to go buy a new car now because theirs has got so many miles on. I think there's the cost benefit, even if we get some stuff from them, it's not going to match 100% of it. We're only going to get 80%. And I think even at that 80%, they're going to show that it's worth it. I don't think we even need to wait on something. I mean, this is, to me, it's a no-brainer that two vehicles is going to save us money in the long run.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, then friendly amendment, I'll amend my motion to be just to approve the two items requested from Tom Green County.
Very well, great, thank you. Let's move on to Victoria County.
Vote on each, or?
I think you can take a vote for each county. Is my suggestion would be a motion for all the items you want to recommend for each county and have a vote.
All right, so all in favor of the motion I said for Tom Green County?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Moving on to Victoria County. Victoria operates the Crossroads Regional Public Defender Office. They cover 4 counties. And they've requested several items that we think are quite straightforward and that were in line with what we've done to 4 other counties, including internships, recruiting signing bonuses for those 4 felony openings that are very difficult to fill. And that would include some funds for relocation expenses. And then the recruiting video and advertising fees that we approved for several other counties last time. Each of those are in the staff recommendation column. The advanced training opportunities is a little bit more unusual because of the magnitude of the request, I guess. So if you look on page 28 of your meeting materials, there's a list of, page 29 of your meeting materials. There's a list of the requested trainings and the costs associated with them. So these are all very advanced defender trainings that, as you can see, are quite expensive. Because of the magnitude of the request for these training items, we thought it would be best to highlight them and give you the opportunity to provide some guidance on what you all think is appropriate in this context. I will say that one of the concerns I had initially when we looked at this was, as soon as a program that's in our sustainability grant program sees that another program has gotten something good that they would like to have, we can expect other programs to request similar things. And I thought it was probably not likely that we would be able to do this for all of our sustainability grant programs at this magnitude. So that was the concern. But you can see the list there of the various costs and particular items. Several of them obviously are, one of them is remote, the Harvard Negotiation Mastery. Several of them are out of town and require several visits. So I'll open that up for discussion.
I've never added up my ACS lawyer scientist expenses, but wow, It's a phenomenal course. That took me, I mean, I spread the cost out over about 4 years. Um, and it's tremendous. I haven't done Trial Lawyers College altogether. I've done, local ones, and they're amazing. Um, I've done, I haven't done the NCDC or Harvard, but definitely all the DWI stuff. And that's, I mean, that'd be phenomenal training. I guess, kind of like with the, I know for the like loan repayment, you have to stay with the office for a certain number of years. Like, are we
Yeah.
going to get any sort of commitment from people,
I should
before
mention,
we shell out 80 grand? Or
I should mention that they did indicate that they would require a minimum of 2 years of tenure for those folks who did this. I'm not exactly sure how that would be structured, if they would have to sign something that they agree to pay it back if they leave before 2 years. But they did indicate in the application that there would be a commitment of a couple of years.
yeah, I mean, I would just say, certainly for people doing the, um, like the ACS course, I mean, for like intox manslaughter and things like that, that's absolutely phenomenal training. That certainly more than the DA's office, gets. So, I mean, I would love to do it. I just, my concern is yours. Our other county is going to say, hey, well, we want this money too.
Yeah, I think it's clear that the reputation for all these programs is extremely good, and they'd be valuable. Other thoughts?
I just think our Texas state programs, we provide so many things between state bar and all the other, I see TCDLA on the list, but I just think in general, there's so many resources that are provided in Texas that I'm skeptical of TIDC needing to pay for attorneys to go out of state for things.
Well, and I'll piggyback on that kind of with what Jay said too, and Edwin, you chimed in on, but I mean, this, like Jay said, these are phenomenal trainings, and I'm glad he stepped up and said all that, because that was going to be my question for him, was as the defense attorney on this, what do you think of these? My concern is kind of what he alluded to, that you get these attorneys with this phenomenal training, and how long do we keep them at a PDO? That's a lot of money. That, and he said too, I mean, I worked at the DA's office. Our attorneys didn't get that kind of stuff.
Well, you have the evidence. You don't need it.
I'm a judge now. You're right.
There you go.
Do we want to approve in part? Like, for example, I'm not aware of the TCDLA DWI training, but that sounds like an in-state program.
It is, and that's a wonderful program. So that's doing all standardized field sobriety testing, the drug recognition expert, and then, I mean, occasionally people use ARIDE, which is advanced roadside impairment detection. But I mean, those are all bundled together. I mean, I think that should be an absolute must for anyone, and that's something that the DA's office does do. And so I would say, they do that, and then wet lab training, that I 100% support. I guess for now, approving it through TCDLA would be fine, but I also think that they could do it in-house. Well, I guess this is for a smaller one.
They, as you can see, that for the Harvard negotiation, they would send 19 people. It's not a tiny office. It's, for us, a medium-sized regional program. So
Yeah.
we're talking about 19 folks, roughly. And then, you can see that some of these items, like the investigator training, is not particularly expensive. One of these items, I mean, Justice Miskell mentioned that, a lot of the cost here is that some of these programs are out of state. The one of them is the online negotiation mastery is obviously online, but being offered to everyone, there's substantial investment there. So I think, yeah, it's an investment in the individual staff members that would be very skill building process, but because people are mobile and some of them might leave public defense, there's some question mark about.
My sense would be I would approve things that are Texas programs and things that are online programs, but I'm personally familiar with the Harvard negotiation program, and it's a great program, but they charge a premium for that Harvard brand name. And so I don't support us as a public organization paying for that brand premium, even if it's a good program. So I just generally, I would say Texas program's okay, online program's okay. I wouldn't approve that online though, because I think we're paying extra for the Harvard brand name. And I'm not familiar with CDITC or the NAPD programs, but those seem relatively low cost. So it doesn't appear to be travel involved.
Well, there is some travel, as you can see in the second column, or I'm sorry, the second to the last column, they break it out. But
I mean, I would say
yeah,
if we have money that needs to be used, then sure. But otherwise, I think like lawyer scientists and trial lawyers college are above and beyond what I think above and beyond what would be expected at private firms too.
and we can certainly, I mean, so this is not a one and done thing. They can always come back to us at a future meeting and with a revised request, we can approve some of this now. And they can revisit it maybe with more of a Texas focus if that's something that we'd like to recommend. Texas has the Prairie Dog up in Lubbock. They have, of course, Rusty Duncan. There are plenty of Texas-based opportunities. I think we did say special training opportunities would be something kind of above and beyond training opportunities would be something they could seek under this, but I think that those programs are also very highly regarded and stay a little bit more standard.
So do you want to go back to them and say, resubmit with either Texas focus or online things that are more reasonably priced, or do you want to piecemeal it now, or what was your sense?
I guess my recommendation on that question is if there are things that you're comfortable approving now, that would be helpful just in the sense that if they can get started and get underway on some of the items that are not particularly controversial here, they can, and then they can come back to us at our next meeting in March and revise the other items they'd like.
So I would defer to Jay on this one, but my sense would be I'd be okay with anything TCDLA and below on that list.
I agree with that. I think, having attended tons of TCDLA events prior to doing the lawyer scientist program, they're phenomenal TCDLA events where you can learn about, most of it. Obviously, going and doing it hands-on is exponentially better, but I feel like unless we have extra money, it seems like they'd be better off with another attorney in the office or, something like that.
Okay, then I'll make a motion for the 3 items, TCDLA, CDITC, and NAPD, to just approve those.
I'll second that motion.
All right, all in favor?
And wait,
Aye.
before I'm sorry, if you can go up, Doriana, they also included, I believe, they had interns or one other thing besides the training here. So if we could keep going to the.
Oh, yes. So there were also the staff recommended items.
Yeah, if you can go back to the table, Doriana, there we go. So the first 3 items there were internships, recruiting, and recruiting, video and advertising, and signing bonuses. And so those are straightforwardly in line with what we've done elsewhere. I think what's on the table is which portion of the advanced training opportunities. So the motion so far is TCDLA and down in that listing. And
Okay. And then to that motion, I will also add the 3 items shown on this page as staff recommendations. So all in favor of all of that? Aye.
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 Okay.
okay, thank you all. And we'll circle back with the program and see how they would like to proceed, given the discussion. Next item is the RPDO Local Government Corporation. This is our Regional Public Defender Office for capital cases. They cover about 177 counties across the state. As you may recall from some of our previous meetings, they've really been very short-staffed for a long time. It is hard to recruit qualified felony attorneys. It is very, very hard to recruit people qualified to take cases and death cases. So they have several offices around the state, and they've really struggled. So we've recommended that they add some signing bonuses for these open positions that have been open very long, as well as relocation expenses. As you can see in the table, those are recommended by the staff and also in line with what we've done for the other programs. They also had the amount that they estimated it would cost to work with a professional recruiting firm, typically looking at a commission of 25% of annual salary for each person that the firm successfully recruits. We did, at our previous meeting in August, approve as kind of a pilot one of our programs to engage with a professional recruiter or headhunter who works on those kinds of commissions. They haven't really had an opportunity to show any results yet. We wanted to see how this would work. Obviously, it's par for the course in big firm world, perhaps, but very different for public defense. And so we wanted to kind of see how that goes before we move forward with the additional funding for the professional recruiters. So I think that's, we would like to revisit
Didn't we
that.
approve that last time?
We approved that for one of the programs as a pilot project.
Do we have any results, or have they started it?
Not yet.
Oh,
That's what I was going to say, given that those positions are so hard to fill, I am not opposed in theory to them using a recruiter, and that might actually be the most cost-effective way to do it. But I agree, we approved the other program as sort of a pilot program and asked them to write a report on what worked and what didn't. So I wonder, you said we were holding back money for FY 2026?
Well, we're in 26, FY 27. FY
27.
27, we do need to hold back, but I mean, we could certainly approve this as an expansion of our piloting in the capital context, if you will. There was at least one other program that requested this, but we held back to see how it worked. We can also, I mean, the intention was to revisit this and perhaps invest in it at a bigger scale if it showed some promise. So if we didn't take action on that piece today, it would still be something we could revisit and at a subsequent meeting.
I mean, this seems to be the recurring theme, is that there aren't qualified lawyers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we hear this everywhere. So, I mean, obviously everybody needs to be trained, but I mean, just kind of bringing in a little bit from back there. Like, I feel like this is where money needs to be spent.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think we're the Texas Indigent Defense Commission, and we're, this is what we're kind of charged with, is making sure this works. And what more important case than when someone's life is on the line to get the right people in there when they're indigent, taking care of them. I think this is a no-brainer.
And I'm familiar with how difficult it is to find capital attorneys for our list in our Dallas region, which is an urban region. So I can only imagine the rural counties' difficulties with this. I would be inclined to say, I mean, how long have these positions been unable to be filled? Basically forever.
Some for years. Yes, it's been years since they've been fully staffed. I mean, I don't know that they've ever been fully staffed on attorneys. So it's a very longstanding problem. And I think that, I mean, as you said, Judge Woolley, the urgency, the importance in the capital context would be very reasonable to expand the pilot testing of this strategy in this particular context.
And then I have just a probably theoretical question. We're accounting 25% of, you know, a salary to be paid to a lawyer. Have we tried just, or have they tried just increasing the salary by 25% and see if that helps with any bites? Because I mean, I'm, you know, financial is a, you know, a big reason that people go to get jobs. I realize, you know, people stay in jobs for different reasons, but I mean, has that ever been
So
tried?
in the last June board meeting, the board did approve an increase in the budget for our PDO that included significant salary increases. That is definitely part of the issue. And then you can see that we're also offering, or they're requesting, and we're recommending signing bonuses for new attorney positions. So those are certainly part of the strategy. It's sort of a multi-pronged approach. But in terms of just increasing the annual salary by that much, I don't know that would really kind of put it out of line with, I don't know. It's not a permanent salary increases of that magnitude, I don't think have been discussed, but we have raised the salary relatively recently.
Just a thought.
Yeah. It's a labor market, and market forces, you know, there are many factors, but
Do we know if this is contingent on them actually getting someone in the position?
yes,
is this
they're
a-
only paid if they successfully place someone, and they typically, the industry standard is typically that person has to stay in place for at least a year before, in order for the commission to not have to be returned. So that's the industry standard as we understand it. There's no cost if they don't successfully place someone. I should bring up here, and I did want to get a little guidance on this question because there's so much emphasis on recruiting, and we've got these signing bonuses that we're creating or funding for a lot of our sustainability grant programs. One thing that the staff are very concerned about and want to avoid is a very expensive game of musical chairs where people
Right.
just kind of rotate from one program to another. And so with your guidance and permission, what we'd like to do is put grant requirements on these recruiting bonuses that prevent them from being applied if basically you are poaching from another one of our funded programs that has struggled.
Yeah, I strongly support that if that's a possible thing to do.
Well, can we do that unless it's a like maybe just for laterals? Because I mean, some departments are poaching for someone for like a director that could be a different TIDC, and I don't think that would negatively impact. I mean, that could be a good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Mr. Cohen. I mean, you can see we want to avoid the expensive musical chairs. We don't want to get in the way of a recruiting decision that makes sense for everyone and would be beneficial for a program that is. So I think we could limit it to kind of a lateral position and exempt recruiting for leadership.
Yeah, or some sort of, you know, higher level, because I don't, you know, people change jobs to you know, they may not have an opportunity to move up where they are, but you know, if they go somewhere else, they could move up. So
Right.
I think that would be an important distinction.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. We would limit it to kind of lateral moves.
So circling back to the Capitol Defender, I mean, this does seem to be a special, unique position, and given the fact that they've been unsuccessful at ever being fully staffed, I think something new is needed beyond just relocation expenses.
Yeah. I think that's a very reasonable thing. And you can see that the amount they requested was to try this out for 2 of their empty positions, the professional recruiter, fee-based professional recruiter for 2 of the positions. They have 8 vacant attorney positions that they've requested the relocation and signing bonuses for. So I think that sounds like a very reasonable approach given where we are.
I mean, we're welcome to talk about it in our larger meeting, but I'm inclined to approve their request and add them to the pilot program and also make them do a report on what worked and what didn't.
All right. So.
Okay, so I'll make that into a
semi
motion.
motion.
Yeah, so I will move to approve all 3 of the what are we calling them? RPDO, statewide capital case public defender requests as they were submitted.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. The next item from Goliad County is very straightforward. Goliad County participates in the Texas Rio Grande Public Defender kind of regional public defender services program. Just as we did with all the other programs that we gave a 20% reduction of their required matching fees for the sustainability grant program. Goliad just got their request in a little bit too late to be considered at the August meeting, and so we definitely want to recommend that they get the same break on their matching funds for FY26 that the other similar programs got. So we have, so I would suggest a motion to approve Goliad's temporary reduction of the required county match.
I would so move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next page is from Hale County. Hale operates the regional High Plains Regional Public Defender Program. And as there's a long list here. And I guess I would just start by saying some of these items, are pretty straightforward. A lot of them very non-standard for us. And I think a lot of them also are just kind of efforts to find some way or other to increase compensation for folks, given the, folks hear that $10 million figure. It's available for rural programs, and they develop a kind of a wish list. And
Look,
so
I don't blame people for asking.
I don't either.
You do have to responsibly go through the list.
Yes. So you can see that all their requests are kind of itemized here for you. You can see the ones where we have a staff recommendation for items that are more straightforward. And again, similar in line with what we've done for others. There is, you can see toward the bottom, there's several line items that they've requested: 2 cars and associated expenses, insurance, fuel. They want like a magnetic sign to put on there to identify them. And so, we've already kind of had a similar discussion regarding our other program, Tom Green based program. So I would expect a lot of those same considerations apply here. It's a 12 county region, very rural, High Plains area north of Lubbock. And there's no question, again, we did get a cost benefit. The only thing about the cost benefit analysis was they made the assumption that basically all of their reimbursed mileage would go away with 2 vehicles, one in each regional office. I think it's more like maybe 70%, because there's inevitably going to be travel needed to different places on the same day. So you're not always going to have the program vehicle. But even with that sort of modification to their analysis, within a couple of years, this starts to save money for both TIDC and for the counties participating in the program. So I think it's been, I got that cost benefit since we prepared the materials. So those items at the bottom, the last 5 items at the bottom, I think are kind of similar to what we've already discussed with the Tom Green Concho Valley program.
And we don't have this breakdown, right?
I'm sorry?
We don't have this breakdown in our materials.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it is on page, what page?
16.
16.
Oh,
This
gotcha.
is on-
Okay.
I apologize. I should
went
always
back.
reference the page. This is, we're looking at page 16. This is the Hale County request for the High
Okay.
Plains Regional Public Defender. A lot of items here. Okay.
But I have a question. Is there a breakdown you've gotten since then about the cars in particular that is not included here?
I did receive at the end of the day on Wednesday a I'd requested a cost benefit analysis showing break-even point. And they basically, my only quibble with the analysis was that it assumed that all of the mileage that was being estimated would disappear in favor of using the program's 2 vehicles. And, I think it's probably more of a reasonable assumption that maybe 80% would, just because there's always going to be times. That was a minor quibble with what they provided, but they did provide a cost benefit that shows that it starts saving money next fiscal year. I think maybe the reality is that'll be at the end of next fiscal year before we hit the break even and start saving, or maybe early in the following. But I'm satisfied based on the analysis that they, that it would save the program's money for the same reasons that we discussed with the Tom Green program. I did note that, of course, the fuel and maintenance and insurance costs, they're not technically one-time costs, but I discussed this with Scott. We thought that if they were going to take the step and purchase this equipment, it would be reasonable to bundle it with the associated expenses, but they would have to recognize that those costs that are not one-time would need to be built into future budgets and I think they would be covered by savings next year, but not
And
technically one-time costs.
that's what we've done for the other 2 counties
Yes,
for vehicles. Okay.
yes.
No, this is minor, but on the magnetic car signs,
Mhm.
assuming these vehicles would have exempt plates on them.
I would assume so. As county vehicles, they would be owned by Hale
And
County.
they would need to be not magnetic. They'd have to be permanently marked. And most bodies now are aluminum, so magnetic car signs aren't going to work. I know this is very minor, but I think
Yeah.
they should be permanently marked and not magnetic.
We could, I didn't get a budget for that. I don't know exactly how I mean, we could certainly approve this and have them come back to figure out the cost for, kind of permanent paint or something like that. I think they were just thinking that they want to be able, when they roll up, if it's an investigator going up to someone's house, they want to have something that identifies the vehicle, but we could circle back and address that. So that's just a little piece of this list, as you can see. Would you like me to just highlight some of the other items on the list?
Well,
Or-
did they go through any of the did they give a description for any of this stuff?
Yes, so the detailed request you will find on page 37 of your meeting materials. It's only a fairly,
Oh no, that doesn't have anything.
no,
I'm just wondering like why did y'all recommend law books instead of Lexus?
well, the law books are one time and the Lexus is not a one-time expense. So
Yeah, but law books aren't one time. They're
well, that's fair, yes. I think the thinking was that
nobody uses that anymore. Like, I mean, unless they're
that's-
for decoration.
so we did purchase for the Crossroads program at the August meeting, or we recommended approval of a request from them for some research materials, including some law books. So out of kind of concerns for parity, I included that here. I think LexisNexis is a very important tool that we would like to fund it. I don't want to like ding anybody on technicalities, but I think the legislature's guidance was this has to be for temporary or one-time costs. We could approve it as temporary and recommend that they build it into their future budgets in subsequent years. But
I mean, they're going to have it. Like I can tell you now, they've got to have it.
Yeah.
Oh, and, but although, things are going, the hold that LexisNexis has on lawyers is loosening with AI and things like that, because that's the benefit of Lexis and Westlaw is that they had real lawyers summarizing things and head notes and all that stuff and making it easily searchable. And that this may be the trend that they're trending away from that. But I think law books is a waste, personally.
I mean, that's stuff like a physical copy of the penal code or like annotated, I mean, I used.
Okay. I was thinking like case law books.
No, I'm going to pull up the details of their request.
Oh yeah, everyone needs a physical copy of the code.
I think those are the kinds of things that were contemplated in both instances.
Okay, well if that makes sense. Okay,
and there's 2 offices with a number of staff, so it's an up to amount. On LexisNexis, I mean, I certainly agree with you that it is something that the program should have access to. I think there are ways to get by without it, but it's certainly better. So to the extent that the committee, I think it's a very important tool. And setting aside the technical concern about it being a one-time cost or a temporary cost, we could certainly approve it as temporary with the idea that they would work to build it into their ongoing budget.
Well, let me ask this. Is Hale County or the High Plains Regional Public Defender receiving the other kinds of grants that we give, like the
Yes.
percentage? Okay.
Yes.
So I know that money is fungible. And so if it doesn't come from one place, it just comes from another place. But I think the spirit of this legislative allocation of these funds, I think we should stick with things that are one time because we certainly have plenty of requests, and
Mhm.
whether those dollars come in the form of, Lexus gets paid out of the other portion of money that TIDC gives them.
Mhm.
I'm fine with the request that, as recommended by the staff, of purchasing their printed materials that they need, their codes and stuff, and then not subsidizing Lexus. I do think it's hard to say what's a one-time expense versus a temporary, but I think we should stick with the spirit of the
We could, the point's well taken, Justice Miskell, and I think we could certainly work with them to request a budget adjustment and the core sustainability grant to address the need for Lexus just through that other channel. We could, so.
But I kind of took it like Jay was saying, they probably already have it, and this is just subsidizing 1 year of it. That's what
They actually don't have it.
Okay. I will
Yeah,
say that, there are free stuff. Like I used Google Scholar when I was on the bench because I didn't have a subscription to a service. So
mhm. The chief defender recently who stepped down was a district judge, and so I think he he would very much he understands how important and valuable it would be. So they're not currently getting it under their. I'm sorry if I was unclear about that. They're not currently getting it. They are doing some workarounds like Google Scholar or some kind of other research tools to make do without it.
So then I do think it's problematic to request it for 1 year and then be like, it gets taken away next year.
So I can certainly work with them on that to submit a grant modification request for the core sustainability grant where that would be something that would be added. Should we?
I wonder if Lexus offers any sort of like discounts for PD's office or something like that.
I think it's all negotiated, and obviously prosecutor offices and counties are work deals. I think my understanding of the market is that it's negotiable and you can sometimes leverage. But
both Westlaw and Lexus are on the state contract and do have a reduced rate for government offices, both PDs and prosecutors.
Okay, so whatever deal is already in place this is in line with it.
They good access.
Okay. I think the recruiting's great. I think the signing bonuses are great. I think the cars are a great idea. Computers, all that stuff.
I like their training too, that they're doing an in-house. Where was it at?
So there's a number of items. If I could, yeah, there's a bunch of these itemized items are associated with a staff retreat that they're proposing where they bring speakers in. Let me find the lines. I should have numbered these lines. I'm sorry. There's so many items. So you can see about in the middle, a third of the way down, 4-day summer staff retreat with speakers. Hotel costs $9,000, mileage for per diem. There we go. Thank you for marking that, Doriana. Everything from that one down through.
And I know this covers many regions, so is it not really feasible to have it at a central?
So this program has 2 offices currently in the High Plains region. Again, it's kind of north of Lubbock.
Do we know how far they are from each other?
Well, they, probably an hour and a half, 2-hour drive.
From where?
Between the 2 offices for High Plains.
Okay, so the employees would, like, if everyone were to go to one office, they would still need hotels and all that stuff.
Some would, but what's being proposed here is an offsite retreat.
All right. And I was just thinking if they did it on site, could we pay all the same training, but save some money on the,
Yeah, I don't think that either of their offices have sufficient facilities. I suppose
Oh.
they could use courtrooms or something that would be like that. But what's been proposed is like an offsite thing, like a hotel or a conference center where you can, have
I think those generally work better too, and that if you're in your office and something minor comes up, you tend to deal with
Yeah.
it. If you're offsite, it's got to be something major for you to step away and deal with.
I agree. Just trying to pinch pennies.
so
They don't make pennies anymore, Jay. We got to start pinching nickels.
Oh yeah, true.
So you got the estimate there of 1,500 times 5 for presenter travel expenses, CLE fees, mileage per diem for summer retreat. So those 4 items or so, I guess it's about 35 in the neighborhood of 35,000 for that training event. I will say that because the program is struggling to hire attorneys, if y'all were inclined to recommend this, I would say that we should encourage them to delay until they get more of these hires with the signing bonuses and relocation expenses, so they have a more fully staffed complement instead of just kind of doing it for the somewhat sparsely staffed, at least in terms of attorneys program. But yeah, the offsite retreat is definitely a cluster of items here that we wanted to get your guidance on.
I like it.
I think there's so many Texas programs that already exist that I would, unless you guys disagree with me, because it's fair that my experience is not primarily criminal, but it seems like there's a variety of State Bar, Rusty Duncan, other programs that are already put on that we could subsidize travel to, as opposed, I don't know. My sense is to, as a general policy, just fund people to go to existing Texas programs that we already have.
I wonder on the bang for the buck on this for $40,000 to train all the attorneys in that office at the same time. And obviously they're bringing in presenters from possibly from some of those courses themselves. How many people are we going to get to send to those things, even in Texas for that 35,000? How many of those attorneys would we get to send to that? I mean, you look at that other list, and some of that to send 4 attorneys to was pushing that.
Yeah, and I wonder if this could cut down on some of the additional expenses of sending someone like to Rusty Duncan, but also like would this involve their the paralegals and things like that? Because if we can get the paralegals the same training, that kind of helps things go faster.
I think the idea was that the entire staff would be trained together. I mean, maybe they would have some breakouts or something, but
I mean, I would like a little more information, but I don't always get what I want. So
let me see if I can pull up the training details for you. So they say regarding the total training and professional development, if you add up the sections, is it's not in there, Doriana, it's the wrong one. 38,850, and it says ongoing education is vital to the success of our attorneys and staff. Currently, support staff have pursued training independently due to limited resources. Enroll staff in online courses with professional organizations, provide formal training for investigators, and host a summer retreat featuring guest speakers to enhance expertise in criminal defense. The retreat will be held in a rural location within our service area, reinforcing our commitment to the communities that we serve. That was the extent of the description that they gave regarding the offsite retreat. So we could certainly ask for a more, I mean, if you want to hold off, we could ask them to fill in the gaps or develop a more substantive or detailed description or proposal. Sounds like Justice Miskell's concern is that there are lots of existing trainings that might be a better alternative. I know that the prairie, I just got this thing from TCDLA for the prairie dog training up in, which has very cute animals on it. I probably wouldn't have even opened it if it didn't. And, you know, that's actually coming up in very soon in January, but I guess the main discussion is whether we want to do something now, hold off, or just, you know, recommend that they come back with existing trainings.
I think Justice Miskell has an excellent point. And I am not opposed to funding something for them, but it'd be helpful to know why it would be more beneficial to them than an existing program.
So do you want to approve, what we could do today is approve like the staff recommended items and then ask for further detail on their proposed 4-day summer staff retreat?
And it sounds reasonable to me.
And then did we want to talk about adding the cars as well for this one?
Oh, I thought those were in there. Are they not in there?
They're not under the staff recommendation.
Well, they're at the bottom. They weren't recommended because of the pending. As I said, I got late on Wednesday. I got a cost benefit with the detailed numbers of their estimates. So it's not in there now, but I am suggesting that we are in a place where we can recommend the vehicles for them as a cost, cost effective.
So my motion would be to approve all of the things that are listed as recommended award, plus the bundle of stuff related to the cars plus the bundle for 1 year. And then to ask them to flesh out a little more in more detail their proposed CLE training retreat for future discussion.
I second that. I think that encompasses everything we discussed.
Okay, all in
And-
favor? Oh, sorry, more
Aye.
discussion. Aye.
Oh.
That sounds good. And as I said, I think that giving them time to more fully staff up before they might want to do one of these kinds of events or retreats might make sense anyway from a timeline perspective. So we can revisit that, and I will give them that feedback. Just wanted to ask a couple more items that I didn't list in the recommended column that I wanted to discuss or get your guidance on. There's some Plainview office wall repair and painting, $10,000. Plainview office and carpeting, $11,915. Plainview office sign, $15,000. Plainview office B, similar things. So these one-time office expenses, they're reasonable. Scott and I have visited. Bill has been up there. We visited the facilities. They definitely are appropriate requests given the facilities that the program's working in. They're clearly one time. Do you all want to consider these kinds of, I guess, physical plant updates in this context, or what are your thoughts there?
Is that how I know the funds were intended for, one-time costs. Are they one-time, is this encompassed in the spirit of?
I think it's eligible in the sense that it's a one-time, they're county-owned facilities in this instance. The county's providing these facilities without rental costs, I believe. Is that right, Bill? Hale County is not renting this space to the program. They're just providing it in kind.
I believe this is county space.
Yes.
Well, we can certainly make that a condition and follow up on it with Hale County to be sure.
So I think it's eligible under the rider. And if this were privately owned space, I think it would be a much more unclear. But I think it's definitely eligible, and I think it's a reasonable request. So,
We've certainly paid for this kind of stuff. I mean, I'm not recalling anything specifically under this grant program. I would consider it a one-time cost. We've certainly paid for this kind of stuff through our other sustainability grants. I think there's an argument to be made, like it's part of the recruiting effort, right? Like if you came to an office and it's like this, rundown dump, are you going to want to work there? Probably not. But if it's a decent, workspace, where, you know, you're not scared to come to work because it's in such bad shape. I think there's something to be said for a nice workspace in terms of your recruiting efforts.
I was going to say the exact same thing, Scott. When I was with the DA's office, we got a lease building and it was built to our specs. The district attorney's wife at the time was an interior designer. It was brick walls. Our conference room was like glass walls with brick pillars. Attorneys came in there and they wanted to come to work there.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great point to that, is the recruiting. Is if I'm a lawyer looking for something and I go there and it's just a dump, and then I go to a private firm as maybe a bottom rung lawyer, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Much more rather go work at the nice place every day than the basement of the courthouse.
I spend 40% of my time in my office and 60% of my time where if my nose isn't touching someone else's hair, there are not enough people in the elevator. So I'll let y'all discuss it.
One thing I wanted that I'm unclear about, I agree that this is a good investment. I just didn't include it in the recommended because I thought it warranted discussion. There is $15,000 for an office sign. That was the one thing where I was like, that seems maybe a little different from replacing very worn carpet or taking care of walls that are really need.
Well, I mean, if you've got defendants coming in to meet and there's not a clear signage on how to get there, like that could be a very important thing.
Yeah, I think
I don't know what the layout is, but signs aren't cheap and signs last a long time.
I was gonna say my initial reaction was like against this one because I'm like, why are we getting involved in capital improvements? But then if this is something that TIDC has funded before, and I agree, if it's to the point where you're working in an office where the walls aren't repaired, then, then I think this makes sense. As long as it's something that we've done for counties before, because I don't know why, but in my mind, these sort of capital improvements feel different than the other categories of things we've been funding.
Yeah, it's that's a great point, Justice Miskell. There's kind of a line between office make ready sometimes is a term that's used. So if you've got a space, say a program has to rent space, but it or even if it's
build out expenses versus maintenance.
Yeah, but it is definitely something we've done for new programs where if they're going to have a decent space that's appropriate for the program to operate in, we've provided this type of assistance for other programs fairly routinely. Very different from like building a building or major construction project, especially for a county-owned facility that is being provided in kind at this scale is definitely consistent with our previous practice.
So how does this work? Does this go through like the county would do all of the stuff that's required for government contracts and put it out for bid and handle it and supervise it and all that?
So all of the funding goes through Hale County, and so they have to go through procurement procedures and processes, just like bidding, et cetera, to get any of this type of work done. So yes, they have to follow county procurement practices.
And so the county is on board that if we allocate these funds to them, then they are going to get spent on that project and reimbursed by TIDC?
Yes, they would only be eligible to be paid by TIDC if they were consistent with the proposed program. They couldn't just take the money and spend it. We don't just give them the money and then let them spend it.
And then hope that they do the painting.
Right. It would have to be very specific.
I mean, realistically, $10,000 in painting is not going to get you very far.
Yeah, these aren't big offices.
I will say I was against it, but after hearing the discussion, I'm open to considering this request. So, I mean, you say you've been there and the walls are in disrepair. I mean, that sounds
Yeah,
urgent.
the office was provided, I think it had just not been in use. The county made it available as an in-kind, contribution to the regional program, and it definitely needs some TLC. So
Well, I mean, did that not save us money by them doing that and give us a little bit of investment to make it a workable space? I don't think it's that big of an expense and to make it work. And I'm kind of with Jay on the sign thing. That was the one thing I had a question of, but then again, not knowing the layout there, not knowing the signage, how do people, I've been in those courthouses that you can't figure out where you need to go because there's no signs.
Mhm. Yeah, there's one of their buildings is an annex near, right, kind of in the same complex as the courthouse, but separate building. So it totally seems reasonable. These were things that I just thought warranted some discussion. That's why we didn't include them in the column.
Okay,
And
well,
a lot of the other items that we haven't talked about are like bonuses for existing staff. It's really not what this program was for. Social media advertising budget was 75K, which just seemed high to everybody that I talked to. Hard to make sense of that.
Well, that's why I was asking if they had any like breakout descriptions, but I guess not.
There's a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at that page.
Yeah, but there's not. I'm looking at everything that they provided that's more specific behind this itemized list, and they don't have much to say about where that number came from. So I think, they put this together
I'm
probably.
guessing that ties into the items directly above it, which is the recruiting.
Yes, that's the idea. And certainly there are costs to advertising. Social media advertising is probably not the best attorney recruitment vehicle. Some of it might be helpful, but really going to those platforms where, attorneys go to look for work, and listing there is probably a better investment. But that's something that they could revise and come back to us on with a clearer plan or more explanation about what it is. I think the idea was here was that they were really just trying to like think of all the kinds of things they would like to have. And some of it was more detailed and thought through than others.
so we've already approved the staff recommendations and the cars. Do we want to add a motion to approve the wall, carpet, and signage items?
Let's do it.
Okay, I will so move. Second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Well, thank you all for that and the discussion. It's very helpful. Making good progress. Let's move to next page, Toriana. So we have one more request. This is from Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid. I'm sorry, Texas Rio Grande Public Defender, which is a spin-off independent nonprofit that used to be part of TRALA, Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid. And they've been a partner of TIDC's for many years. They operate the B Regional Public Defender. They cover Goliad. They've done work in Refugio. They have a big component of our Operation Lone Star program. So they've and then of course they are in the process, and we'll talk about this in a moment, of trying to get launched the Maverick Tri-County Public Defender Office. So like all of these programs, they've had recruiting difficulties and have had lots of positions that are open. They've had to pause accepting new cases in their jurisdictions, to the great consternation of the county officials who really rely upon them, just because their caseloads were getting so high because of so many vacancies. So same story with recruiting here. So the first three items you can see are related to the signing bonuses and relocation expenses for 10 positions. Again, we're very bullish on internships as part of our building the pipeline of new attorneys coming into public defense. And so we definitely are recommending that. And then there are some fringe benefits costs that are associated with those two items. The other ones are a little more worthy of discussion because Texas Rio Grande Public Defender is an independent nonprofit organization. I believe they're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And some of the needs and some of the requests that they put forward are really requests for investment in their organization as opposed to a funded program operating in the counties more directly. So while the counties that are served by TRGPD would benefit to some extent from a more robust organization that has more resources and organizational infrastructure, it's kind of once removed from the programmatic implementation at the county level. It's more, some of the items are more of an investment in the I guess the organizational infrastructure of Texas Rio Grande Public Defender, the nonprofit. So that's a part of why some of these items we left off the recommendation list. So for example, a marketing contractor, that would be somebody that would probably be involved in part in recruiting, but also in part in fundraising for the organization. But a marketing contractor, they've requested a web design contractor. The theory is that if you have a better website, it helps for recruiting. I think that's true, but really the project would be bigger than that in the sense that they would be redoing their whole website, and that seemed more like an organizational investment than an investment in a program operated in a county. So that's why those things were left off. Any discussion about these items or?
No, I agree with you on that, TIDC doesn't donate money to nonprofits that do the work. We like spend money to do the work directly.
We certainly support the recruiting account fees. These are the costs that would be involved in like posting jobs on LinkedIn or whatever kind of websites where you can advertise your opportunities. We thought that was reasonable. Recruiting related travel that, often involves like going to law schools, traveling to places to recruit, going to CLEs where you try to table and get yourself out there with attorneys who might want to come to be a public defender. We thought those were reasonable. The attorney travel stipend for current and future staff was something that was unclear. I mean, we think that certainly when people are traveling for work, they should be eligible for mileage reimbursement, and the policy should cover that. But beyond that, we didn't think we could recommend that from this program's funds. So that's the first cluster. I've skipped lines to kind of break this down into several chunks. The next item that they requested was a data engineer contractor for 1 year at $110,000. Again, this is kind of a little bit more leaning into that direction of an organizational infrastructure investment, but they did have a couple of different pieces of this request that they had in mind. One of them was that they use LegalServer as their case management system, and they've been operating across Texas for many years in many different jurisdictions. And apparently all the case files, these thousands and thousands of case files, take up a huge amount of space in the cloud with LegalServer, and there's some cost to maintaining those files. And so part of the idea with this data engineer contractor was at least some of the time would be used to develop a system to just get those off of LegalServer, archive them somehow, and reduce some of their operating costs in that way. Because those cases were, I don't know what to say about that beyond that. The other items that they had in mind were related to integrating a lot of their internal data systems to facilitate reporting and data tracking. So they were mentioning integrating their financial reporting system in with their case management system and building some kind of master database that would allow them to do more slicing and dicing of all of their data from these different components and make their grant reporting simpler, their financial reporting simpler. Because they operate in OLS, they operate in B County, they operate in Goliad, and soon to operate in Maverick. Allocating time, I guess, is challenging, and so this big data project was, again, left off the list because it seemed like more of an organizational investment than a programmatic investment.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I wouldn't so much have a problem with paying parts of it, like maybe buying the 20 terabyte hard drives for that system, but you know, that's something that is kind of a more permanent thing. I can't imagine there's not some other program out there that they could get instead of building their own. And whether that's just having that on-site storage to reduce the fees for the cloud, then we'll buy I mean, I have no problem paying for the on-site storage, but to pay $110,000 for somebody to build a system that there has to be a system for out there, I just don't. I'm with you. I think that's more organizational than the function of the office.
I think that whole industry is changing to let AI help you with the software engineer. I think that you certainly need someone to, do it, but I feel like the prices on that are changing.
One of those 8 interns can do it.
Yeah, there you go. They're not there for law.
Okay,
Yeah, I agree that I'm not sure this is a good fit for the purpose that the money was appropriated for.
That's what I meant to say.
the next chunk here is associated, all these next items that are at the bottom third here are associated with a proposed pilot project in the Beeville Regional Program for a diversion court program. So not funding the specialty court program itself, but funding the defense component of a new specialty court program that would be focused on diversion. The only dedicated staff person would be, and that's the number you see there is for 2 years. So, but that would be for a dedicated staff person for TRGPD. That would be the caseworker that would be predominantly working with that program. And then they've also requested a temporary increase for the attorney in the region that would be at the point of building up and working with the local officials to develop this program. We did get letters of support from the county court at law judge and other members of the local judiciary in support of developing this pilot project. And so there's definitely good support from the local officials and judiciary. The one I wasn't, I'm clearly, and the staff recommendation is clearly to support the dedicated caseworker position for 2 years. The temporary increase in the attorney, which would be basically $15,000 a year over 2 years, to kind of take on the additional work of setting up this program, establishing some of the relationships with the regional partners, et cetera. That was the part that, I thought warranted more discussion.
Okay, so does the diversion court program exist?
No, it is proposed as a pilot project, the pilot program that would be set up with TRGPD working with the local judiciary and other stakeholders.
And what kind of diversion program is it, if you know?
So if you look at page 40 of your materials, this is where the program is. The bottom half of page 40 basically maps out the idea of how it would work.
Yeah, I mean, this is something the legislature has allowed for, and it's frustrating when it's not available in small counties.
Definitely focused on misdemeanors.
Okay, so it says misdemeanor diversion court for individuals with mental health diagnoses or substance abuse struggles. Was there another pot of money for mental health programs?
Yes, we do have funding dedicated for mental health offenders. There are some funds available in that program. So to the extent that
well, this says it's driven by individuals with untreated mental illness or substance abuse disorders. versus I think we've given money for like mental health. Well, anyway, I'll let someone.
I guess my question was if we had a mental health pot of money that we needed to find things to spend that on, then this
Mhm.
might qualify for that budget line item versus this. I was just asking.
Yes, we certainly could fund it. Now the difference would be that this program for the temporary assistance, and this would be a temporary because it's set up as a pilot project, would cover 100% of the cost and would require no, counties to not go back and mess with their budget and amend it to come up with matching funds. The mental health program does require, like most of our standard grants, the matching funds. So the reason that they applied under the TARP, the Temporary Assistance for Rural Programs, was to avoid the county having to come up with matching funds after they've already adopted their budget.
Okay, that answers
My question on this would be, with this diversion program, would that not then lessen? I guess if you're balancing the caseload by pushing stuff to this diversion, are we not balancing the money the same way? Like,
Well, I think that the difference here is that you'd have a dedicated caseworker who would be working more intensively with the bulk of the cost here would be the 2 years for the caseworker. And you're adding capacity to do more intensive work and support for the people in this special program by adding some capacity that doesn't currently exist.
And I think the additional work is like in traditional criminal whatever, whenever the case is disposed, then it's over, right? But with a diversion, when the case is disposed in the sense of, traditionally, then it's like a second step, and so the defense lawyer still has to be involved, whereas their work would have ended at that time.
Right. Yeah, these cases are still the cases that would be handled in this program. They're currently running through the system without this program, without the support of the extra dedicated caseworker and a kind of built up, specialty court program around it. And as Mr. Cohen said, the cases are kind of ongoing because there are status hearings and check-ins that continue.
but that work would fall on the caseworker.
Yes.
Part of that then, and not necessarily attorneys in the office.
The bulk of it would be a lot of the follow through. The bulk of it would be with this dedicated person. The attorney's obviously still involved, but the caseworker would be adding value to the cases that isn't currently there. And they do have a good, again, it's not because it is a proposal for a program that they've secured support locally to build out. Not all the details are hammered out, but I think they have a good plan and good support locally to be able to get this off the ground and to measure the impact. And they are very keenly aware of the need to track the data, document the impact of this additional support and the additional interventions that are made possible by it.
I don't know about this county, but like I know in our county we do have specific dedicated like mental health and drug court and things like that. And when you enter that, there is a defense lawyer that like or veterans court, right? Your current defense lawyer is released, and then they have a dedicated lawyer who handles that. And I know at least with our misdemeanor diversions, it doesn't, like, they don't have it because they don't all go to a central location. Then there's not a dedicated defense lawyer. And so it falls on the other defense lawyer, the previous that, sometimes creates issues. So I don't know if that's.
They are not proposing a dedicated. I think the scale of the program probably wouldn't support the addition of another full-time attorney, but the existing attorneys that are already handling these cases kind of just as routine cases without the specialty court program would continue to be involved. They wouldn't be taking on new cases except for that additional follow through, and the most of that is the additional caseworker that's being added here.
I think most of the questions and concerns from the defendants could probably be answered by a dedicated caseworker versus a lawyer, is
Right.
my guess.
And the lawyer's still there. They're still available and they're still representing the client. The public defender attorney would still be involved.
And the other thing is, at least here, the specialty courts are typically after hour. Well, maybe not after hours, but court ends at whenever judges go home, which is what, 11:30. So when you have veterans court and drug court, they're usually at 4 and 3. When I would be back at the office, or when another lawyer would be back at the office. So I mean, I'm not totally opposed to that extra money for the person having to do the extra work.
So that was the one thing I wanted to flag, is if y'all were on board with the additional 30,000, which would be 15,000 per year over 2 years for the attorney, who would be the point person working with the caseworker to build out the program and run it.
Because in the specialty court programs, they do have a dedicated lawyer that does, to my knowledge, get paid to do that.
Mhm.
I'm sure Judge Miskell could shed more light on that.
My recollection, I never did a specialty court as a judge, but my recollection, like, for example, we had a CPS drug court. And so the attorneys that worked in that CPS drug court were on our normal CPS wheel, but they were sort of that special group. So if your case went to CPS drug court, the appointed CPS attorney was released and the special one that did drug court was substituted, but they weren't like full-time with that program or anything. That was just sort of a concentration that they did, I guess, if that makes sense.
Were they compensated separately?
No, just by being on the wheel, they were compensated like any other court-appointed attorney.
Oh,
That's my
per
recollection.
case though, right? Or so they would get paid to be in court to do that.
Our CPS cases were hourly, so they got paid, but they got paid as any other CPS attorney would have for that work.
Okay.
I know a lot of counties do criminal as flat fee, so that they might have to compensate their diversion court attorneys differently than flat fee.
But then aren't these attorneys in the office salaried?
Yes, yeah. So the public defender, regional public defender program operated by Texas Rio Grande Public Defender in this multi-county region, they're all salaried. We're not talking about them taking newer cases, but just building up, working with the local officials to build out this specialty court program and provide additional services and support through the caseworker addition. So they're already salaried. The question here, or the proposal here, which I was unsure about, is the attorney that would be primarily leading with the new caseworker, the development of the program and its implementation. If a temporary raise is appropriate there, they are already salaried.
So effectively, it's like a bonus for spearheading this new project.
I think that's a fair way to describe it. I did discuss this with their director, and basically it boils down to kind of a bonus for the additional work and responsibilities that they would be taking on.
Do they have someone that's like uniquely qualified to do that, or are we just?
I don't know the individual in
Okay.
particular. I don't have those details, but presumably they would be selecting someone from their staff who would be equipped to do this. And of course, they'd have the support of their senior leadership.
Who would it fall on if we didn't give extra money to have someone labeled as the?
I think that clearly there would still be somebody, a salaried public defender would be doing all this under their standard salary. And the part of the request is to give them extra money for a couple of years.
What precedent do we set by doing this for this program to give one of the attorneys in the office a $15,000 bonus? And where does that put us with the next PDO wanting to do another kind of specialty court and getting the attorneys bonuses? And
I think that's a good question. Yeah, I think that's a good question.
Or would it be better off for us to spend $15,000 making a statewide like rubric for them to just for everyone to follow, and then makes everybody's life easier?
You mean salary wise?
What it
No,
sounds
no,
to me,
no.
though, is what this person would be doing is running down a lot of the errands of interacting with the sheriff, interacting with the commissioners, interacting with the county court at law, like the whatever, like all the just the footwork of setting up a new program. So in other words, this would be local effort, not something that could be like a
Oh, yeah.
package
Like with
checklist.
the recovery organizations and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what they had in mind, Justice Miskell. The kind of legwork of starting up a new program. You got to get the local mental health authority people. You got to make connections with the sheriff. You got to establish linkages in order for it to work. And the caseworker can do a lot of that. The attorney would be involved in a lot of it as well. If not
So I guess the
most.
big question is, would it get done without the bonus?
I think if they tasked one of their existing public defenders with this, that the person would do it. I mean, I think that, the bottom line is folks are tasked with representing their clients the best they can, and if they can be involved in some structural changes that are going to benefit their clients, that would just be part of their job. So, I mean, I believe it would still happen. I just think that when the director put the application together, he thought it would be appropriate, given the additional responsibilities and efforts to develop something new, that he wanted to be able to offer some additional compensation on a temporary basis.
I could go. I could go.
think
I could go either way.
Yeah, same. I think it's fair if you look at it. It's a little over $1,000 a month, which I think might be a bit high, but I'm not opposed to somebody getting compensation for that because I know how much work that is to set up a new program.
Yeah, I just wonder, is it worth that much money when you have a caseworker that we're throwing into the mix with it too, to do some of that legwork?
I mean, we could approve half the attorney money.
Yeah. Yes, certainly. So they requested 30, which was 15 per year over 2 years.
What is that 15 as a percentage of the salary for one of the staff there, one of the attorneys?
I think most, I don't know the salary. I think most folks are probably around, 90-ish, 85, 90, somewhere in there. Maybe a little more if they've been around for a while.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Judge Miskell's right. Let's take the family court approach and split the baby.
Okay. So
So
for this one, we have not approved any of the requests for this B and Maverick Regional Public Defender. Is that right?
that's not yet. That's correct.
Okay. Was there anything further that you wanted to discuss on any of the categories?
So I mean, because it was not fully baked, they asked for $20,000 for workshops, travel, and materials used to build community partnerships. 20,000. I just based on the material they submitted, wasn't 100% clear what that was. So I suggested, I mean, there's clearly costs. So I suggested maybe 10,000 for that. Let them come back later if that's insufficient, and they can identify more specific costs. But it's hard to kind of just approve some of the things when you're in a planning stage and you're not quite sure what the costs are going to be. So I recommended 10,000 for that category. They asked for $10,000 for software costs for tracking outcomes and performance reporting. That wasn't really clearly explained, so I left that off of the recommendations. But they could certainly come back to us if they identify a particular need.
Are they getting any other funding elsewhere? Like, is this part of some reporting that they need for another grant?
No, I think most of not that I'm aware of, I don't think they have any other significant funders besides us. We are funding them to operate several different programs around the state. But this particular program would be the B Live Oak McMullen region, just a 3-county region, one of their programs. And again, they can always come back to us if they as this thing gets set up and rolling. They can always say, we've identified a cost that we'd like for you to consider amending our budget to include. That's a very routine thing in our business.
Is there any other discussion we want to have about it?
The last thing I'll mention is that for anything associated with staffing, they include 15% indirect, which is standard for nonprofits. That is the Texas Grant Management Standards de minimis rate that they're allowed to claim, and we've encouraged them to request it. So we want to recommend that they qualify for that indirect, but we'd have to adjust it based on the committee's decisions. So I just wanted to highlight that.
So at this time, I would begin with a motion to approve all of the recommended awards, plus adding back $15,000 for the temporary salary increase for the diversion court program. Is there any discussion on what the motion should be?
And including indirect expenses as adjusted.
Yes.
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
And thank you all very much for that and for the discussion. That's been very helpful. We're almost done. I understand that we were planning on 90 minutes, so I think we can kick it into high gear here. The next item I want to bring to your attention is on page 63. I called this out in my email to you all. This is from Maverick County, and it's a request for additional support for the Maverick, Dimmitt, and Zavala County Regional Public Defender Office. Can I just pause for a moment to ask Doriana, do we have Judge Cantu in the Zoom room?
We do not know.
Okay, there was some possibility that he might be able to address the committee, but I can summarize. I've spoken with them recently and at length about this, and I can do my best to summarize where we stand. So back in June, the board approved a new grant, a sustainability grant for Maverick County for a new regional public defender office, 3 counties. It would be operated by Texas Rio Grande Public Defender. We've been working with them for decades, at least over a decade. They're a proven partner in implementing these rural regional public defender offices. They've been involved in Operation Lone Star, and so we think that they'll do a very good job of implementing this program for the county. As you may recall from some previous meetings, Maverick County has had a long history with the IAC in terms of policy monitoring findings. You know, these are when we send our attorneys and team out to check compliance with the Fair Defense Act timelines regarding appointment of counsel, processing of requests for counsel, et cetera. Been a lot of problems in Maverick, and really the county has historically spent very, very little on indigent defense for decades and decades. So I just highlighted a couple of stats for you here. In FY23, they spent a total of $885,000, or basically $1.47 per capita. And in FY24, they spent 87 cents per capita on indigent defense. The statewide average is $14. So the county has this long pattern and long history of spending very little on indigent defense. I think part of the problems, many of the problems that we've identified in the jurisdiction are at least related to underfunding the system. So the county has recently taken some steps to improve compliance with the Fair Defense Act. We provided a grant to them to get an indigent defense coordinator position, which is now in place, and that's already shown some benefits. Our team has been down there and believes that indigent defense coordinator is helping with front-end requests for counsel, et cetera. And they've applied for this regional public defender program, which indicates a long-term commitment to putting in place a defender program that's going to be more compliant and more effective. When we looked at the temporary assistance for rural programs grants at the August meeting, we provided Maverick County a 20% discount, as we did with everyone else who asked, in their required matching funds for the year. But the county is, once they were awarded the grant and they had been through their budget cycle, they have not moved forward on the grant because they cannot get it launched under existing resources. So they've requested an additional $122,646 for FY26. That would be augmenting their award that is currently in place in order to make it feasible for them to go move forward and implement this new program, which we believe is very much needed and will be a game changer for the region. So staff are supportive. We think that it's important that to the extent that the commission approves that request for additional startup funds to make it more cost feasible for the county, that it is accompanied by a commitment to increase funding over time for indigent defense in general, and particularly for this public defender program. But the Judge Cantu, the county judge, and of course, Chief Budget Officer of Maverick County has indicated that he recognizes that the cost will need to go up over year, and that this is just necessary. The other thing that Judge Cantu cited was the need for a new county court at law to be funded in the jurisdiction. The legislature created a county court at law, a new county court at law in Maverick County. That has created additional burdens in the short run for the county in terms of their justice system funding. And that also kind of created more of a pinch for them to come up with their matching funds for the year. So we do have the letter from Judge Cantu, which you'll see on page 64 of your meeting materials. You can pull that up, Doreen. And you'll see that in the letter, Judge Cantu is just highlighting that at this particular point, at the inception of the program, the tight budget is making it very just not feasible for them to move forward without some additional support to get it launched. So we think the program is going to be incredibly important. I think staff are supportive, provided that the county recognizes that the need for indigent defense investments will need to grow in subsequent years. I'll just ask Doriana again, did we have Judge Cantu in the waiting room?
No, not yet.
Okay, just got a call from the grants manager. I'm not sure if he was. I had emailed the Zoom link, so keep your eye on it in case he joins.
So what was the percentage match for year one under the originally approved? It says their current match was 182, but what was TIDC? What was the breakdown percentage wise? Like 80-20, 230?
So after the commission gave the 20% break, the 20% discount on the matching required out of the temporary funds, the three counties collectively were funding 16% of the cost in the first year. Typically, we would fund 20% in the first year and then go to 33% in subsequent years, 1/3. The county portion would be 20% in the first year and 33% in subsequent years. So the way that Judge Cantu explained this to me, they really just need some help in this initial year to get the program launched, and they understand that the cost will be increasing over time.
Because if they were already at only 16% and now they're reducing that by 2/3, so now they're covering like 5-6% of.
I believe it's around 7. I think I did the math, and it's around 7% for the initial year.
And I guess the purpose of doing investments like this in a matching manner is just to make sure that they have the capacity to support it locally.
Right. I mean, there are a number of reasons why TIDC requires skin in the game from the counties and the local communities. We aren't able to fully fund indigent defense in Texas with the appropriations the legislature has so far provided us. And so, having a match is important. And I think that, they applied for the grant, not sure whether they'd get it or not. They got it. They got this new county court at law. Their budget process, I guess, wasn't fully building in the projected costs in the initial year. And so I think the request is to just get additional support in the initial year to get it launched. And that the county will step up over time.
Because my concern would be.
I think, if I could, I'm sorry, if I could
Go ahead.
interrupt you. I think that we do have Judge Cantu perhaps under Isaac's, his colleague's name. Doriana, why don't you go ahead and bring in Isaac? So Isaac Ruiz is the name on the contact, but I believe he may be with Judge Cantu, and he could answer some questions directly. Can you bring him in?
He's in. I think he's muted.
Okay. And we can't hear you yet.
Okay, he's unmuted. Hi, is that Isaac?
Yes, good morning. How are you guys doing? I apologize for the late entrance.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for joining us.
So Isaac Ruiz is the grants coordinator for Maverick County. And I think we had originally invited Judge Cantu to say a few words, but Isaac, do you want to just fill in any additional information that I didn't already mention?
Yes, I apologize. Judge Cantu had an emergency with a family member this morning that he could not avoid. So I apologize for him not being on here. But yes, we're very eager to start this public defenders grant. I know that we've been in contact with Mr. Colfax and also David from the Texas Public Defenders. And we, through the course of our budget this year, back in October, well, not October, September, we did have some difficulty in finalizing our budget due to the fact that of the county court at law that we had to, through the statute, start creating with the legislature with the information that came down. So that's why we had a little difficulty, and we're seeing, the budget. And we're trying to be, as fiscally responsible as we can. So Judge Cantu, speaking with him before today, he did want to make that commitment of what it states in the letter of the 60,000, and he's hoping that we're able to work with you guys as far as making this happen for Maverick County. We do see a great need in this public defender's office moving forward, especially with things that we've had in the past, issues that have arisen. I'm not sure if you guys saw the article that we had about, I think it was earlier this year or last year, and we just want to make sure that things like that do not happen again here in Maverick County. And I think that in working with David from the Public Defender's Office, he has shown a great initiative of wanting to get this program down here. And we're at your service, and we're hoping that we can make this work moving forward.
Thanks, Isaac.
So Isaac, this is Emily Miskell. I'm on the grants committee. And so the question that I was just asking before you joined was, I think ordinarily when a program like this begins, I believe Edwin told me that the county typically is expected to contribute 20%. And that based on the discount, the grant that was already approved, and then the additional funds that were already approved, with what this latest letter from Judge Cantu is proposing, would really be Maverick County only bringing in like 7% of the year one of the new program. And so that just makes me concerned, because what everyone wants the program to be a success and have longevity. But I'm worried that if this same thing happens next year or the year after, that's really going to cause a problem. So I guess my concern is this truly a year one only problem, or why would we expect things to be different year two, year three? Does that make sense?
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, I do want to reiterate the reason why we kind of got into this spot was because of the county court of law that was created. It was a kind of a last minute thing that was sprung up on us. And that's why the judge had to open up that department. And of course, whenever we open a department, to be able to make it run, we have to fund it. So we were kind of caught off guard ourselves, but we did wanted to comply with those measures. So that's why we had to move forward with creating that county court of law. Now, being that it's already created at this fiscal year, what we're foreseeing, of course, we can never be 100% guaranteed, but what we're foreseeing is that we won't have that same issue into next year. It was kind of a thing where this year it was, like I said, a kind of a surprise, but we did want to comply and create that county court of law, and it kind of offset our budget a little bit. There was some, difficult cuts. I'm sure Judge Cantu can confirm that, but we don't see that past the next fiscal year moving forward. That budget, it's already going to be budgeted in. It's not going to be a surprise. So the planning into moving that into next fiscal year should go a lot smoother than it did for this planning for this fiscal year.
I don't know that I have a better articulated question, but I just want to make sure that when we do this, that we do that in a way that it can be long-term successful, and that we want to make sure there's support locally.
No, absolutely. I believe that, again, I mean, I don't want to just blame it on sound like a recorder here, but it was the issue with the county court of law that we needed to comply with. And the judge, it was tough with all the budget meetings that we had to have in commissioner's court, but we wanted to make sure to comply. So that's why we had that new department created, and we had to fund that department. I believe it was over $200,000 of the county budget that we had to get from several other departments to go ahead and create that department to comply. Again, now once that department is created, we'll be able to have a better picture this whole year. That way, next year, it doesn't happen where we're, having to come back and request any kind of deductions or anything like that. So, I mean, where we're standing right now, I believe that we'll be able to plan a whole year to plan and make sure that this grant is fully funded as it's supposed to be with the 80-20%, I believe.
I'll also mention for the committee's benefit that in conversations with the director at Texas Rio Grande Public Defender, they've looked at the kind of jail, some of the budget implications of getting a public defender that would more quickly work cases and be able to get folks who don't need to be in jail out of jail more quickly, which of course would generate some additional savings to the county. So I think that there's some benefits to getting started with the public defender that are also going to ease some of the budget pressures that have resulted in this need, particularly in that space where they can, lease space to the feds, the jail space potentially, or just reduce some of the incarceration costs, because one of the biggest problems down there is that there's just not the attorney capacity to handle a lot of the cases that are working through the system very effective way. So
that is one of the big problems we have. I'm sorry,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to reiterate what you said, is that is one of the biggest problems that we do have is, people staying in jail longer than they have to because we don't have the dedicated attorneys available to them. And speaking with David, like Mr. Colfax mentioned, is that they'll be able to address those issues right away. And in the last couple of years, I know the sheriff's office has lost a lot of funding through the federal partners, state partners they have, wherever they house the jail inmates, because we have more people, Maverick County people there that are not being, don't have an attorney to defend them. So they're having to stay a little bit longer in jail, which is taking up space and income that the jail used to receive before. With this, we do see a lot more money, that funding that was for those inmates, getting the local people out of our county jails. We'll be able to recapture where we once were a couple of years ago, making that income with the inmates that we house from other areas.
Also, just to provide a little bit of couple other points of context for the committee. We generally offered 20% discounts on sustainability program matching funds through back in August. But there was one exception. There are actually kind of two exceptions I'll highlight, just because I don't think that this would be unprecedented if you decided to move forward. We did provide an enhanced discount to Hale County, substantially more than 20. I think it was probably 50, in the ballpark of 50%. Hale County's program had suffered some very unique problems. The staff quickly, under previous leadership, had quickly gotten overburdened, and a lot of the staff resigned en masse. The program really needed to be rebuilt. And so we did make an exception in our recommendation, and that was approved to give them an enhanced level of support to navigate that challenge. And then the other thing I'll point out is the legislature in a budget rider, and this is just a function of I guess connections and having the right friends in the right places. But one of the new public defender programs that we started this year in Wharton and Matagorda counties got 100% funding from TIDC that we were directed to provide in a budget rider from the legislature. So it is, I just point those two things out to provide the committee with some context that it's not unprecedented that we would have some elevated support for a program on a temporary basis, given unique circumstances.
I didn't have any further questions for Isaac. I don't know if any of the other committee members did.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. Appreciate you joining and providing some additional background for us. Thanks for signing on.
No, absolutely. Thank you. And again, I apologize for the judge. He had a issue come up, and he wanted me to kind of reach out and see if I could answer any questions. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Thank you, Isaac.
I mean, I think the need is there in Maverick County. I'm concerned that I would never want to be in a position where we're actually making things worse.
Right.
I don't disagree with that, but I don't like some of the things that I heard. This was not a surprise thrown on them by the legislature. The county has to request that.
That's my question. Like, typically they want all the commissioners to be on board before they give new courts.
That was not a surprise. There's no way that was a surprise that the legislature, and the second part of that is that just because it's created in that legislative session doesn't mean it has to be immediately funded. It could be, it could be funded later. Obviously, you're not going to see a caseload increase because that caseload was already there. The increase would be in court time and, having a separate county court at law functioning at the same time. Does that increase the need for defense attorneys to be able to have the time to be in both places? I don't know. I'm not the politician that likes BS. Like, just shoot it to me straight. Like, don't say that the legislature threw this on you, because that is not what happened.
Do y'all just want to punt on this one? I'm a little concerned about us I don't know what y'all's time is looking like. We do have a few other items. I mean, we could just punt this to the full board, couldn't we, Edwin?
We certainly could, and some of the other items are really not ripe anyway, so we could punt them to given the hour.
That would be my preference, given not just the dollar amount of the request, but the fact that we're taking their share down so low to 7% gives me concern about the long-term viability and whether there is sufficient local support.
I concur with that 100%. And, if they wanted the legislature to fund this fully, Eddie Morales should have worked a little bit harder to put that in the rider that we had to do it.
So we can, if it's the committee's preference, we can just bring this up for discussion with the full board. I think it's, as you point out, it's a departure from our standard. And so if that's
a secondary departure, even, because we already did it one time for them.
True.
Right.
Okay, very good. Really only one other thing that I would just at least plant the seed, and we can take this up with the full committee. We had some preliminary discussions with the chair and vice chair about this issue. On page 65, we have some policy considerations we'd like for you to consider. And again, we don't have to, we've been going over time and want to be sensitive to your time so we can take this up with the full committee, but at least start thinking about it. So we've always, except for this very unusual thing where we've got this temporary money, everything TIDC has done heretofore has been about putting permanent programs in place, really making investments. And this dovetails into the discussion we just had, Justice Miskell, about, long-term viability and local support. Standard improvement grant tapers off after 4 years, but it really kind of it's front-loaded and incentivized counties to implement a new program that's going to help indigent defense. Of course, the sustainability grant program is intended to implement permanent programs that are going to be there year in and year out. So that's our clear expectation when people apply, and this is communicated in the request for applications, that they know that and that they provide some notion. Can you scoot down a little bit, Dorian? They know that we are expecting the program to be continued, provided that it operates and is successful, it operates as intended, that there aren't any surprises, that the counties will continue. But we don't have a very hard formalized way of holding them to that if they change their mind and decide that they want to quit a program that we've been funding. So we think it might be appropriate to start a conversation with you all to strengthen and formalize the commitment to continuing successful programs for several reasons. We want to avoid counties that take grant funds while they're available and then quit a program when state grants wane or end, or are reduced or end in a predictable way. And we want to avoid host counties or participating counties from pulling out of successful regional programs that destabilize multi-county collaborations. So we just, and again, this is just probably the beginning of a conversation we can take up with the full board, depending on your desire. But we just spec'd out some possible ways that we could strengthen the commitment that we might be asking for from counties that are applying for grant funds that would avoid those two undesirable events. We can say that there's some period of time after you pull out of a program that's operating well, where you aren't eligible for any new grants for 3 years or 4 years. We could add language to the Commissioner Court resolution that strongly and explicitly indicates that they'll continue programs that are operating successfully. We could suspend formula grants for some period of time, theoretically, and we could also require some repayment of improvement grant funds if a program is terminated within a particular timeline. So all these things probably warrant a longer conversation than we probably have time for today, given the excellent discussion we've had over a lot of details, which I really appreciate. But I'll just stop there and see how y'all want to proceed.
This would not be inclusive of a county that was, say, part of an RPDO that grew enough that they needed their own PDO. That wouldn't include them, right? So they back out of a regional office to do their own. They would still be eligible to get grant funding.
That is certainly a scenario that I would not want to put any penalties on, provided that they were working with their regional partners and not surprising anyone. Yeah, that sounds like a perfectly fine thing, that where some program might be outgrows itself and needs to. Yeah.
Kind of like we discussed earlier with the attorney moving into a leadership spot. You don't want to penalize them when they've outgrown the population increases and they need their own as opposed to a regional.
Right. We would that's not what we'd be trying to do. So we would want to structure anything to avoid that.
I mean, I think this is certainly worth considering, because the wrinkle that you have with county government is the body that approved the participation in the program may not be the same as the body that wants to back out of it, right? So I think some of these policy options are worthwhile, especially given that we sometimes have transitions in leadership.
Yes, I think there are also, commissioners' courts can't necessarily obligate future commissioners on budget matters, but I think we could, to the extent that we want to try to get a more clear-cut, good faith commitment for as far as it goes, or go beyond that.
Well, and just to acknowledge the fact that when, for example, the example of a participating county pulling out of a regional program, then there are some costs that they're not bearing, that their actions incur costs that they're not bearing. And so this helps price in the true cost of that decision.
Right.
Yeah, just same thing. You have a commissioner's court flip that doesn't want to do this indigent funding, and then they realize that, oh, that was the best way to do it. Oh, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we need to take a second look at this before we kill it.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, externalities was the word I was trying to remember. This
Mhm.
price is in the externalities of the decision.
Throwing out SAT words.
Well, we are led by a guy with an economics degree, so
I was about to say the economist over here is appreciating your use of economic language,
Yes.
Justice Miskell. So thank you.
so we can again. I want to be sensitive to everybody's time. We've gone over time, and I'm happy to discuss this as long as you're willing or able. But we could also just when we did mention this idea to the chair and vice chair, they asked us to get you all thinking about it and maybe get some ideas that could be taken up with the broader group. So however you want to proceed.
So were they expecting like a more fleshed out proposal on Friday?
I think that they recognize that there are a lot of moving parts, and I think they want to just have a discussion and get thoughts on the table. I don't think they had any kind of particular expectation. It would be great if we could come up with a plan for their consideration, but
What is
I'm
our
wondering,
next?
like, do y'all have like the 36 months versus the 48 months? Like, I don't know, as a gut reaction, like, in terms of the amount of time a county would be ineligible to get another improvement grant. I don't know if one of those like strikes you as more reasonable than the other, but those were kind of the different time frames that around with.
I think 48's a good one. I mean, you're looking at, if we're talking about commissioners' courts, you could 48 months would be a full turnover. So if you had a turnover that in commissioners' court that went against it, you wouldn't penalize the new commissioners' court for going back to it.
That's what I was going to wonder is a commissioner's court that pulls out or a county that pulls out of the program. I don't see them as being very likely to come back within this time frame to want to partner for new programs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But one of the reasons that I listed the formula grant as every county, almost every county gets a formula grant almost every year. So potentially that could be something that would be reconsidered to address the point you
Yeah,
just
because number 3 and number 4 seemed more realistically effective than number 1 and number 2, but I think,
you could be ineligible for formula grants and improvement grants for some period of years, possibly. And I think all this would have to be for a program that is ended for good cause, where the commission, you all, would decide whether there was good cause. There are programs that don't work out, and we don't want to. It would always be in the within the power of the commission to set aside or waive one of these rules if they thought that good cause was presented. But we think that having some kind of policy that would kick in would avoid problems down the road.
Let me ask this. Is this a real problem that has happened, or is this something we're just trying to forecast?
I would say it's a real problem in the sense that, Starr County Opera was the hub of a regional program that wanted to get out, but its partners, Jim Hogg and Duval, were kind of left high and dry. I think one or both of them very soon after were like, what do we do now? We want to get back into something. And their anchor county pulled out and it just wasn't workable. So, it's a real issue. The Willacy County had a regional public defender program that was operated under the Texas Rio Grande umbrella. They decided to end their public defender and go back to the wheel.
We've had other members of regional offices that a single county pulled out, that TIDC has had to make up their portion of it because of the late notice, some of which were after the first year, with the statement they didn't realize that their match was going up, which of course is in the RFA and going forward. It's also not unusual to hear a member of Commissioners Court saying, well, what if we get out and see how it works? We can always get back in. This makes it clear. I mean, Justice Miskell, you really identified the issue as not just the internal of the county, but also the externalities with we end up frequently contributing to those programs at an increased level to pay the transition costs or to keep the rest of the programs going because the other counties were dependent on that with the current structure of our regionals. So this really, and that's also where like formula grants come in to offset some of those additional costs to TIDC because of a single county making a decision to withdraw.
Yeah, so I think that's totally fair, and then that's how we should frame the decision is we're not doing this to punish someone for not wanting to work with us anymore. We're doing it to incorporate and acknowledge the fact that sudden changes cause costs that other counties have to, and TIDC ends up holding the bag for. And so this is to make it fair and to price in some of those costs that you cause when you change course, you know, suddenly.
And then also, does it impact where our funds go? Like, because I mean, we're laying it out, you know, real far in advance, and then they're coming and just throwing a wrench in it.
I think all very good points. Yes, there are these wrenches that get thrown in the works that cause problems. I love the way of conceptualizing this as pricing in externalities. I think that's exactly what we need to do, and that what's not happening now. So I think that's a very good frame from which to approach this.
What is our next meeting after December?
Be March. I don't think it's been set yet, but generally early March.
Would it be fair to take the temperature of the larger committee on this as a concept and then come back with maybe a better proposal in March, depending on the feedback we get?
I think we certainly can. One of the reasons we brought it forward now is we thought maybe adding some language into the FY27 request for applications would be appropriate. I think that even if we don't get it into that document, we can certainly add it, you know, based on the commission's decisions, we could add grant conditions to anything that would be approved moving forward that would incorporate whatever kind of policy is ultimately adopted. And we'd obviously want to do our best to communicate that as soon as we nailed something down in the spring before the final grant applications are submitted. So I think that's, Scott, does that sound reasonable to you?
I think so. I think as long as they're getting notice, you know, before they accept the grant, then I think we're good. And, you know, if a decision was ultimately made at the March meeting, then, you know, we could even tell applicants ahead of time, like, hey, there's going to be this new condition for the grant, you know, if the county ends up accepting it. And so as long as there is some notice ahead of time, I think we should be good.
Could you put in, so say in December, we say, yes, generally this seems like a good idea to make sure counties are realizing the full cost of their decisions. So maybe we could add some general language to the brochures or materials that you send out to say that early termination of a grant funded program may result in repayment of some costs or ineligibility for future grants, and leave it at that and not say what it is until we figure it out.
I think that's certainly that puts them on notice, and we could use general language in the request for applications document, and then communicate the new policy once adopted. I think that's
okay. That's what I would be in favor of, is general warning: early termination may incur, you know, repayment costs or ineligibility for future grants. And then we can, given any feedback we get from the larger group in December, come up with our actual details.
That sounds good. I think we definitely, this is you know, an important change. We want to get it right. So I think this is a good timeline, and I appreciate the guidance and thought that y'all have put into it.
All right. Well, sorry to keep everyone late. Is there anything else that we definitely.
The other items in the book, we can really wait till the full board. There are a couple of extraordinary disbursement requests that are really not ripe for action. We'll try to, you all, thank you very much for taking the time to go through the very detailed itemized list that took up most of our time. These other items we can take up with the full committee, the full commission rather. And I don't even think they're ripe. And then, of course, this question of the request for applications document, we can take that up with the full committee as well. So I think we can wrap it, given that we're over time, and if that sounds good to the members.
Well, good. Well, thanks everybody. I enjoy meeting with our committee, and I will be virtual on Friday, so I'll be on the screen.
Great.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks, Justice Miskell,
All
Judge
right.
Woolley, Mr. Cohen.
Well, then
Thanks,
I will.
everyone.
Taking the
I guess
time.
we move
and
to
your-
adjourn, and I don't think we need a vote on that.
I think you're right. Thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate the time and conversation. We'll talk soon.